హాస్య బ్రహ్మ శ్రీ గమిడిపాటి కామేశ్వరరావు గారు త్యాగరాజు ఆత్మవిచారం 3వ భాగం 7/9/20 పెద్దాడ రామస్వామి గారని పశ్చిమ గోదావరి జిల్లా బహుశా రాగులపాలెం మాకు పక్కన కూడా ఆయన ప్రిన్సిపాల్గా చేశారు. ఆయన చాలా గైడ్లు కూడా రాశారు, ఇంటర్కి డిగ్రీలు ఇంగ్లీష్ గైడ్. ఆయన దీని మీద ఇంగ్లీష్లో తన అభిప్రాయం చెప్పారు. రిఫ్లెక్షన్ ఆన్ ది లైఫ్ అండ్ వర్క్ ఆఫ్ త్యాగరాజా ది మిస్టిక్ సింగర్ ఆన్ రీడింగ్ మిస్టర్ భమిడిపాటి కామేశ్వరరావు's book త్యాగరాజు ఆత్మవిచారం. The true character and the destiny of life has, though the whole range of the world's history, been more correctly perceived, consciously, curiously enough by the seers and the mystics than by the materialists and the men of mechanic excellence. It is not acquisition and accumulation, not action and adventure that form the true and end and aim of being. It is a power of becoming and achievement of reality, a transformation into union, an experience of yet one man through attainment, yet one man though the mutual interaction, the ceaseless thrust and effort of inelastic matter and expansive spirit. Life has an instinctive quest for transcendence through over so many obstructions and even entanglements. Man himself has been defined as a capacity for the influence, this longing for the infinite, this hunger for perfection, this melody for the ideal has been an invaluable characteristic of life. Thou hast made us for thyself, and Mr. Augustine said Mr. Augustine in one of his moods of exaltation, addressing himself to the God of being, his being, and our hearts shall show no rest apart from the edge of the river, running river upon the limitless ocean. The desire of the restless mouth for the consuming fire has therefore been the characteristic movement of life. Our wills are ours. We know not how. Our wills are ours to make them thine. In the modern poet's mind, echo of the perennial cry of the human faith, this instinctive urge of life towards transcendence has through the ages expressed itself in two distinctly different channels. There has been a movement of negative transcendence that looks upon the vast apparatus of life as a continuous series of obstacles in the God-world movement of the human spirit. There has been also a generous expansion and sublimation of love and wit until matter became infiltrated and impregnated with spirit. There have been instances of ascetics withdrawal within self-inflicted tortures or racialistic flesh. There have been lives blessed by an all-sweetening and all-sanctifying love, promptly sacrifice and service in behalf of the world's lowliest, lowliest and the lost. Some have gone alone to the cloud-topped mountain peaks to meet God in solitude. There have been enthusiastic whose ardent personal emotion of divine love has carried them into the midst of the humanity's suffering multitudes of heal and to comfort, while the former types bring no tidings of joy for the race on the plains and in the valleys. The latter have spent themselves in self-consuming passion for the redemption of the sorrowing children of men. Tyagaraja does not belong to the category of the pseudo-mystics idly basking in the luxury of God's presence. One of the practical temple exemplars of natural supernaturalism. He and his formal simple and normal simple sense men who prominently inherited while with the intoxicating presence of was yet necessarily busy extorting, exhorting, remonstrating, revealing, rejoicing, regenerating his countrymen and contemporaries with the wine of the song of the glory of the grace of the Lord. A full-blooded life was his with wife and child, with poverty and suffering. He believed as he affirmed a tone of triumphant faith with Nanak of northern India, Nanak of northern India, and with Navalis and other mystics of medieval era, that the human body is the truly sacred tabernacle, that the devout heart is real Shekinah, Sakina, and that God's Aradhana is going on unnecessarily in the soul within as also in nature without. Is prevalent repeatedly proclaimed the utter futility and inconsequence of doctrine and ritual, and with his clarion voice of personal experience and emphatically acclaim the supremacy for spiritual values of vision and victory of personal devotion, though through song and dance, though praise and prayer, through contemplation and communion. He insists on the infinite superiority of the pilgrimaging within over the widening range without. He humbly protests that his faith and his devotions are not for outward parade, but only for inward regeneration. He depreciates the claims of meditators and unhesitatingly urge the efficacy of direct approach to the ever available and all-pervading presence of the God that both individuals and transcends. It is not so often reorganized that he unequivocally contends that the Rama of his adoration and the Aradhana is not a human or even superhuman personality with certain local characteristics and attributes, but the eternal individual reality that reveals in the heart that adores. He deprecatingly alludes in the minor deities to whom are allotted the comparatively subsidiary functions of Sri Shakti, Pushti and Nasti creation, sustenance and annihilation, while the true God that alone is worthy of worship is the Supreme Spirit that indwells and sanctifies and blesses the human heart. Tyagaraja's singing of Rama Nama is not equated with the ordinary man's worship of Rama, one of the incarnations, perhaps the most popular incarnation in the traditional Hindu pantheon. Tyagaraja, in his Rama worship, like the compeer and contemporary Sri Ramakrishna of his Devi worship, had definitely outgrown the limitations of the crude worship of image. It is one of the particular peculiarities of the Indian ethics movement that while a good many spiritual geniuses that use the flourished form from time to time among Hindus have laid insufficient emphasis upon the spiritual character of true worship and the fraternity of all men, and even perceived the interconceivability of image worship with the one and the only traditional framework of caste organization, with the other leaven of Protestantism in them was not sufficiently pronounced to make them discard the outward forms of and modes as pernicious and hindrance to the true growth of spirit. Their highly developed souls continue to make use of the imagery and the symbolism of the traditional modes of law and worship. In fact, their illumined and unanticipated spiritual spirit put the larger and richer content into them. The phenomenon is already speaking evident in its essential character of steady, thoughtless potentialism, if not a provident conservatism, to the recent spectacle of Mahatma Gandhi, tenaciously clinging for years till within a short while before his martyrdom to the Sanatanist conception of the four Varnas, while passionately pleading for utter elimination of untouchability on one hand, and for the same adoptions of brotherhood on the other. It looks as though great souls concentrate all their sense absurdity into one favorite accentuality or idiosyncrasy. It is not irrelevant, hypothetical, tangentially that prompts the observation. What is necessary to point out is that in the upward ascent of spirit, in a life full of sadhana or spiritual discipline, Tyagaraja's soul had long since reached the mountains of tops of pure atheism. Gandhi says the Rama Raja was the equivalent in the Hindu terminology of the Christian kingdom of God. Both were equivalent variations of the secular statements, ideal commonwealth wherein liberty is but the universal license of the God. The Brahma of Tyagaraja, like the Christ of some Christian mystics, is an abstraction as a humanly apprehended version of the transcendent divine real. On the mountain tops of effluent God vision of the seers and mystics meet and shake hands. The seers of the truth are one, and thus it is that we find in Tyagaraja moods and sentimental parallel to those of other famous mystics of the world. He has mood of arid listening and worldly swearing, which recall to us Wordsworth. The world is too much with us. A self-existing represents God as threatening to reveal to the world all his secrets, his inner lust, his tragic transgression, his innumerable stumblings, and in devotee reportedly threatening to reveal God's secrets also. His inexhaustible mercy, his gratuitous grace, his universal forgiveness, and then says the mystics to God, I will, all temples will be abandoned, all worship will cease, sins will be freely indulged in, and salvation will be taken for granted. And God clamps down and says, I will keep your secret, you will keep my secret. Even thus does Tyagaraja threaten God, saying, I have known all your secret, your guttu and mattu. Another of his saying reminds us of Francis Thompson's Hound of Heaven, when he says that there is none but God to think of ignobly. Often he brings out our minds another great Andhra poet and mystic Vatana, when his previous his material and aesthetic independent and indigenously says that popular applause and worldly affluence are no compensation for the loss of divine faith. Sometimes he reminds us of Blake, sometimes of Beethoven and of David. The parallels that are presented are far too many and too varied. But the one try and keeps uttering itself through the varied notes in the cry of the Joseph spirit that is not satisfied with glimpsing the reality occasionally and in a remote manner, but pours itself out in utter importantly, and his humble spirit may become immovably enchanted in infinite joy. He knew only too well that the deepest secrets of the spirit are not amenable to the descending knife of the intellect, but give up their significance to the devout intuition of the human heart. అదొక భాగం. రెండో భాగం పార్ట్ టూ. From the dawn of man's history, the deepest experience of the human spirit have been uttered, though the medium of the wrestling of the soul cannot always be uttered in the language of the world's commerce. But vision of the heavenly broodings and the transports of the ecstasy born of such experience often fail to find adequate expression through commonplace words, and the spirit seeks to find expression for these inscrutable experience of inward life through the more significant medium of art, of rhythmic song, circulating, significant medium of art, stimulating enjoyed emotion of fascinating dance, revealing inner harmony or animated fragments looming forth previously. Art therefore performs the function of conveying the suggestive ways that cannot otherwise be conveyed to us. It is thus not a superfluous luxury, but a necessary function of the highest life of the spirit. If communicative to us an attitude to life that is a reaction to more subtle and comprehensive contact with reality than the one we ordinarily make, it has an awareness of aspects of truth which we normally fail to perceive or at last but dimly perceive, and thus the artist translates these experiences, the poetry into words, the music into tense, in the painting into colors, in arts and other arts into other expressions of the particular medium, more or less liable to the transforming touch of the spirit. It is the particular experience of music, excellence of music, that of all the arts, it is the least excusable, encumbered by the burden of recalcination medium, and is therefore the purest essence of expressiveness. It occupies the borderland, but between sense and soul, where in the neutral kingdom of beauty they meet. There is one music, no attempt to transfer inspiration to the medium of material, that is grass or protein, and so it effectively expresses and communicates spiritual experiences born of a personal vision of life. Musicians are therefore nearer to mystics than perhaps any other kind of artists, and music is certainly a more luminous revelation than any other kind of knowledge. That is the way with an almost divine arrogance, Browning has in exaggerant tones exclaimed, God has a few of us whom he whispers in the ear. The rest may reason and welcome. It is we musicians who know. Tyagaraja is once a skillful craftsman and an inspired artist, enjoys spiritual and indisputed supremacy in the commonwealth of the Carnatic music. In him we find rapturously melody inseparably fused with language of exquisite poetry, so that we have the rare experience of the double perfection of musical excellence and lyric passion simultaneously presented in one single throb of ecstasy. It is perhaps his greatest achievement in the realm of art, and he has rescued the musical form from the double tyranny of rhythmic poetry, rhythmic routine on the one hand, and the Sahitya exuberance on the other. And his songs have been consequent become vehicles for the transmission of mystic joy radiating from a devout soul in enraptured composition with infinite beauty. At once a devotee, a composer, and a musician, Tyagaraja has in his kritis concrete embodiments of raga patterns effected a unique integration of the bhava, raga and tava. A performance rendering of Tyagaraja's songs is the highest perfection of the art of devout music, as the true enjoyment of such a rendering is the final reward of a devout and a satiristic spirit. It is necessary follows that aggressively rhythmic thala permutations and ugly pseudo-musical ultra-muscular controspious are pulled away from impassioned and enraptured singing with its counterpart of the enthralled serene reason. All honor to the Tamils that at the time when the Aradhana failed to recognize the emergence of the great genius amongst them, they could appreciate the greatness of his achievement and keep alive the tradition of his gift. And for this instinctive service, the Andhras must, in humility and eternal gratitude, how their heads to the Tamils. More. To Tyagaraja's son, the medium of the outpouring of the heart in almost every mood. There are songs which one pure concealed autobiographical. There are songs in which he praises the condensing grace of God, for hearing him with the vision of the beatific contention. There are songs in which he gratefully acknowledges that God is all in him, the bee to the lotus of the heart, the sun to the darkness of the sin, the companion is an exile amidst strangers, the comforter when sorrows and suffering crowd on him, the sovereign spirit of beauty, with whom the mind of his soul is charmed beyond all resistance. The radiant king externally seated on the throne of his heart, the unerring relevant, ministering the needs of the worshipper, the indwelling reality, and equally pervades the ant and the elephant, the supreme treasure for whose passions alone his heart hungers day and night. There are songs in which he mourns the loss of vision for his bereaved spirit. There are songs in which, like the man that prayed not for food but for hunger, he prays that God might grant him inborn or restless on undying spiritualization, undying aspiration for the grace of God. There are songs in which, with the interpreted born in love, his taunted wants God for his sensuousness, for his torturing separation, for his apparent impenetrating to all appeals. There are songs in which he pathetically longs that in him may be kindled not be merely negative renunciation, not simply the longing for godly company, not even the passion for service, not to supreme desire for an occasional glimpse of the benefit vision, but the longing of the child for the gracious mother, the spousal love for the embrace of the beloved bridegroom, the Prananatha. There are songs in which he prays that he may have an invaluable privilege of being chosen and called of God. There are songs in which he laments the wearing of his face as the great tragedy of his life. There are songs in which he implores that life may be for him one long opportunity for love, for praise, for worship, for communion. There are songs in which he prays to be delivered from the sense of religious intolerance and spiritual pride. There are songs in which he becomes his sense of separation and pathetically prays. Life, lift the veil that hides thy face. O God, verily this book of the Bhamiripadi Kameswara Rao is an encyclopedia, a veritable treasure house of spiritual information and inspiration, in which the peasant and the laborer, the master, matron and the maid, the adult and the child, adolescent and culture, and the unlettered all shall feel, or the cultured and the uncultured, even shall find a well-spiring of life, of love, and encourage into all occasions of adequate for all purposes, satisfying in all situations. They, one can ever envisage a period which, when this will become a newly spiritual scripture for the Telugu speaking people, new Gita, in which the sorrowing will find solace, the lonely will find companionship, the doubting you will find confirmation, the trusting will find verification, and all shall find unfailing inspiration, and the author will be gratefully honored more for his humanity than for the humor, more for his faith than for their fun, more for his longing life. He creates than for the length of the exiles. Loftier we exist. Fourth, long ago a poet prayed, let me be the maker of my nation's songs. I care not who shall make its laws. Tyagaraja, lightly than the demon, the Ingar, the mystic, shall the alternate be honored with the master, moldless of Andhra, and he, the bridge between Andhra Desha and Chola Mandal, the genuine that shall symbolize the essential oneness of South Indian culture through the unity of common longing and aspiration. Already Tyagaraja is in process of being transformed into God. May Telugu and the Tamil have courage enough to honor him. You as a man with a humble struggling for sorrows, with a human longing as and rejoicings. May his song be power and the shall be mightier than separating statecraft, and may he may his life and work once again grow to publish for blind men and women of South India, that though the language of human utterance might differ, the language of human longing is identical. When doctrine differs, devotion shall unify. Tyagaraja shall sing as an eternal star, Dhruvanakshatra, in the galaxy of spiritual luminosity is the Indian on the Indian horizon, a live coal buried by the God on the heart of his infinite love. Peddada Ramaswamy, Principal, West Godavari, Bhimavaram College, Bhimavaram, 1-11-1949. అద్భుతమైన ఎంత అనుభూతితో రాశారు ఆయన మనం చెప్పుకోవాలి. ఇప్పటిదాకా మనం దాదాపు నేను 22 ఇవో 10 32 పేజీ ఇంట్రడక్షన్ పుస్తకం గురించి చెప్పుకున్నాం. ఇక అసలు కీర్తనలోకి బయలుదేరుతాను. కీర్తనలు అని హెడ్డింగ్ పెట్టారు. రేపటి నుంచి ఆ కీర్తన సంగతి పట్టుకున్నాం.